Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you love deep dive stories from the Turkish TV world, hit like, subscribe, and tap the join button to support the channel. Today we're talking about a couple whose names you've been requesting again and again, Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yıldırım. The headlines say, wedding, but the real story is richer, more thoughtful, and more personal than a single word can hold. In this video, I'll walk you through how their bond formed, what pushed them to move from quiet companionship to a public commitment, how they're planning a ceremony that actually reflects who they are, and what this means for the fans who met them through Rüzgarlı Tepe. Let's get into it. For many viewers, the first spark between Cemre and Gökberk was a scene, two people on a windswept ridge, a line delivered almost in a whisper, a pause that carried more emotion than a monologue. But if you ask the crew of Rüzgarlı Tepe, the spark looked different. It was two leads arriving at call time with their scripts annotated in pencil, trading thoughts about a beat that felt rushed, deciding together to slow the camera's moves so the silence could land. It was respect, quiet, consistent, unmistakable. That rhythm of collaboration became the language of their relationship long before anyone thought to call it a romance. The public, of course, fell in love with the idea of them as a pair. Fan edits stitched their scenes into miniature love letters. Interviews were slowed down and analyzed frame by frame. Did he glance down when she spoke? Did she finish his sentence because she knew where he was going, or because the answer had been rehearsed? For months, they let the speculation roll past like weather. They didn't deny anything. They didn't confirm anything. They did something smarter, they let the work be the conversation. And then, only then, did they sit down and talk about what comes next. In a frank, unhurried interview, Cemre explained the turning point. It was not a firework moment. It was a series of ordinary ones. She described late nights after filming when lines from the day's scene still hummed in her head, and Gökberk would call just to ask, did we do right by them? Meaning, the characters. Meaning, the story. Slowly, those conversations shifted, away from the needs of the script and toward the logic of real life. Where do they want to live between projects? How do they protect family time? What happens when conflicting schedules aren't a problem to solve but a pattern to accept? These are not glamorous questions. They're marriage questions. Cemre is not someone who rushes. She said it plainly, we've grown together and we've grown separately. We learned how to give each other space and still return to the same table. Her language was simple but telling. Returning to the same table is not the phrasing of a whirlwind romance, it's the phrasing of a partnership. Gökberk, for his part, didn't talk in metaphors. He talked in logistics and gratitude, how they learned to build their weeks, how the quiet mornings mattered, how her steadiness, not her fame, anchors him. She is my home, he said, not dramatically, but the way you might state a fact. People often imagine the decision to marry as a single bright light, but here it sounded like a series of small lanterns. They met each other's families not with television cameras trailing them, but with home-cooked meals and inside jokes. Cemre's aunt asked the practical questions. Gökberk's father asked the gentle ones. Both sides found the same answer. Two people who are serious about what they're building. That approval didn't feel like a green light to a publicity tour, it felt like a blessing for a private promise already made. And now, wedding plans. If you're expecting a spectacle, recalibrate. The words they keep using are honest and ours. Think a ceremony set where their lives actually happen, not where a sponsor tells them to stand. Think music chosen for meaning rather than trend. If they film anything, it will be for their archives, not for an exclusive reel. The dress? Classic lines, no forced grandeur. The rings? Understated gold, quiet to the eye but heavy with intention. The guest list? People who would still show up if the lights failed and the venue lost power. In other words, the opposite of an industry event. That doesn't mean fans are ignored. Quite the contrary. They've been clear that Rüzgarlı Tepe changed their lives, professionally and personally. There will be a nod to that shared history, perhaps in the vows, perhaps in a small reading, perhaps in the way the aisle is staged. Not a performance, an acknowledgement. Because without the audience, their characters would have lived and died in a script binder. Instead, those characters gave both actors room to become who they are today. What about work after the wedding? The short answer, it continues. Cemre is methodical in choosing roles, and a wedding won't speed or slow that discipline. Gökberk has the reputation of being a set builder, the person who keeps morale steady when days run long and weather turns against the schedule. He won't trade that role for a honeymoon that lasts longer than their sanity. Expect a brief pause, not a retreat. Expect them to return to the craft that first knit them together. Let's also talk about boundaries, because that's where many public couples falter. Cemre and Gökberk have been unusually explicit about what will remain private: family routines, health matters, and any conflict that belongs to them, not to the audience. If a rumor crops up, silence may be their answer. Not because they can't respond, but because their relationship isn't a program to be recapped every Sunday night. Paradoxically, that restraint is what will keep the story interesting. Mystery is not a marketing tactic here, it's a form of respect. Fans often ask, how can we support them without overstepping? The answer is simple: mirror their tone. Celebrate what they share, do not demand what they don't. Do not turn former relationships into scaffolding for new drama. Do not weaponize nostalgia. The healthiest fan culture is the one that lets people be human, which is exactly what Cemre and Gökberk are asking for by choosing an intimate path to a very public milestone. Of course, the industry machine is already at work. Offers for joint campaigns arrive with tasteful pitch decks. Streaming platforms whisper about a miniseries that leans into mature romance rather than early episode spark. If they say yes to something, it will likely be because the script respects them as individuals first. A good director knows that real-life chemistry can't carry a bad story, it can only illuminate a good one. Don't be surprised if they avoid on-screen reunions for a while, even though the demand is there. Sometimes protecting the relationship means refusing the most obvious professional move. There is one more layer to this that deserves attention: the example they set. In a media culture that rewards big reveals and bigger reversals, Cemre and Gökberk are modeling a quieter way to be public. Tell the truth, keep the precious parts for yourselves, and let the work speak in full sentences. That will not generate the loudest headlines, but it will generate the longest memory. Years from now, people will recall not just the wedding, but the way the two of them stood together in interviews, calm, coherent, aligned. If you came here for sensational details, I won't pretend to give you what they won't. What I can give you is the shape of a decision that makes sense. Two professionals who began as collaborators, learned each other's rhythms, tested their partnership away from the microphones, and chose marriage not as a performance, but as a continuation. It's not a plot twist. It's character development, real life taking its time and then choosing its moment. We'll leave it there for now. If you enjoyed this deeper look at Cemre, Arda and Gökberk Yıldırım's path to the altar, please like this video, subscribe for more stories told with care, and tell me in the comments, what do you hope they keep private, and what would you love to see them share with fans? Your thoughts help shape these episodes. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye.